I'm standing in my childhood bedroom at 6:47 a.m. on what should be the happiest day of my life, staring at a text message that just shattered my entire world. The morning sunlight streams through the lace curtains my grandmother hung 20 years ago, casting delicate patterns across my wedding dress hanging on the closet door. My hands are trembling so badly I nearly dropped my phone as I read the words again, certain I must have misunderstood. Darling, there's been a change of plans. We gave the Rosewood Estate to your sister Vanessa for her engagement party tonight. You'll need to find somewhere else. The country club has availability. Mom. No apology. No explanation. Just a casual announcement delivered via text message 3 hours before my ceremony, as if she were informing me about a minor schedule adjustment rather than demolishing months of planning and $40,000 in deposits. I'm Nicole Hartley, 34 years old, and I've spent the last 18 months planning every detail of my wedding to Daniel Cooper, the man I've loved since we met at a medical conference in Chicago 4 years ago. The Rosewood Estate isn't just any venue. It's a historic mansion overlooking Lake Michigan with rose gardens that bloom in late spring, the same gardens where my late grandmother used to take me as a child and tell me stories about true love and fairy tale weddings. When Daniel proposed on the estate's terrace at sunset, securing this venue became the foundation of everything else we planned. The photographer specialized in outdoor garden ceremonies. The florist designed arrangements specifically for the mansion's architecture. Our 200 guests received save-the-dates featuring an illustration of the estate's distinctive copper roof. And now, with less than 3 hours until our ceremony, my mother has given it all away to my 28-year-old sister for an engagement party that nobody even knew was happening. My phone buzzes with another message, this time from Vanessa herself. Don't be dramatic, Nick. It's just a venue. You're already married in your heart, right? Besides, Marcus proposed last night and Mom thought it would be perfect to celebrate where you were supposed to get married. Full circle moment. You understand. You always do. The casual cruelty in her words, the assumption that I'll simply absorb this betrayal and smile through it, ignites something in me that's been dormant for 3 decades. Because Vanessa is right about one thing. I always do understand. I always have made myself smaller, quieter, less demanding so that my younger sister could shine brighter. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The pattern started when we were children growing up in Lake Forest, one of Chicago's wealthiest suburbs. Our father, Thomas Hartley, built a commercial real estate empire that made our family name synonymous with luxury developments throughout the Midwest. Our mother, Patricia, came from old money and spent her days managing charity galas and maintaining the family's social standing. Vanessa was born when I was 6, and from the moment she arrived, the family dynamic shifted in ways I was too young to fully understand but old enough to feel deeply. Where I was studious and reserved, Vanessa was charismatic and bold. Where I excelled academically, she charmed everyone she met. I became the responsible daughter who could be counted on to handle things quietly and efficiently. Vanessa became the sparkling star who required constant attention and accommodation. When I graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern and was accepted into their prestigious MBA program, my parents hosted a small dinner at home with close family friends. When Vanessa landed an entry-level position at a marketing firm after barely graduating from a state school, they threw her a celebration at the Peninsula Hotel with 100 guests and a jazz band. When I made partner at Sterling and Associates, one of Chicago's top consulting firms, at age 30, becoming the youngest partner in the company's history, my mother sent flowers to my office with a card that read, "Lovely, dear. Don't forget Sunday brunch." When Vanessa got promoted to Senior Account Coordinator, a title that came with a modest raise and no additional responsibility, our parents bought her a new BMW and announced it at that same Sunday brunch, presenting her with the keys wrapped in a Tiffany blue bow. I learned early that expressing hurt or disappointment about these disparities only made things worse. My mother would sigh and say I was being ungrateful for everything they provided. My father would suggest I was jealous of my sister's natural warmth and social ease, implying that my success was somehow less valuable because it came from hard work rather than innate charm. So I stopped complaining. I smiled at Sunday brunches when Vanessa's minor accomplishments were celebrated like Nobel Prize wins. I congratulated her warmly when she moved into a luxury condo our parents purchased for her while I was still paying my own mortgage. I played the role of the supportive older sister so convincingly that I almost believed it myself. Meeting Daniel changed something fundamental in me, though I didn't realize it at the time. He was a cardiovascular surgeon, brilliant and grounded, with none of the ego that often came with his profession. We met during a healthcare innovation conference where I was presenting on hospital efficiency models and he was attending to learn about operational improvements. After my presentation, he approached me with specific, insightful questions that led to coffee, which led to dinner, which led to 4 years of the most genuine partnership I'd ever experienced. Daniel saw me. Not the capable, accommodating daughter who made things easy for everyone else. Not the high-achieving professional who had something to prove. Just me, Nicole, with all my complexity and quiet strength and carefully hidden vulnerabilities. When he proposed 18 months ago, kneeling on the terrace of the Rosewood Estate as the sun set over Lake Michigan, I felt something I'd never quite experienced before. The certainty that I deserved this moment, this happiness, this beautiful beginning. We'd chosen the estate together, Daniel understanding immediately why the location mattered to me. My grandmother Eleanor, my father's mother, had been the one person in my family who consistently made me feel valued. She died when I was 16, but before she passed, she used to bring me to the Rosewood Estate's public gardens and tell me about the love she'd found with my grandfather, how a good marriage was built on mutual respect and genuine partnership, not performance and accommodation. Having our wedding there felt like honoring her memory and the wisdom she'd tried to impart. The planning process had been extensive and expensive. Daniel and I split most costs, but my parents insisted on contributing $50,000, which they presented as their gift to us during an elaborate dinner at their Lake Forest mansion 6 months ago. My mother made a small speech about how proud they were, how beautiful the wedding would be, how the Hartley name would be represented so elegantly at such a prestigious venue. I remember feeling a warm flush of validation, thinking perhaps they did see me and value me after all. The money covered the venue deposit and guaranteed booking, the photography package, and part of the catering costs. Everything else, the flowers, the dress, the band, the transportation, the rehearsal dinner, came from Daniel's and my own savings, nearly $70,000 invested in creating one perfect day. Now, sitting on my childhood bed with my wedding dress mocking me from across the room, I realize I should have known better. The pattern was too established, too deeply rooted to be overcome by something as simple as a wedding. I think about all the small indignities I've absorbed over the years, telling myself they didn't matter, that I was being oversensitive, that family dynamics were complicated and imperfect in every household. But this isn't a small indignity. This is my wedding day. This is 3 hours before 200 guests arrive at a venue that no longer belongs to me. This is the culmination of 18 months of planning, thousands of dollars, and countless hours of coordination, all dismissed with a casual text message and the assumption that I'll simply accept it. My phone rings, and I see Daniel's name. For a moment I consider not answering, ashamed that my family has created this chaos, but I've never hidden things from him and I won't start now. Good morning, beautiful bride. His voice is warm and excited, and I can hear his mother and sisters laughing in the background at his parents' house where he stayed last night, honoring the tradition of not seeing each other before the ceremony. Are you getting nervous? My hands are actually shaking. I've performed heart surgeries with steadier hands than this. Daniel, I say, and my voice cracks on his name. The laughter in the background stops abruptly. Something's happened. My mother just texted. They've given the Rosewood Estate to Vanessa for her engagement party. Marcus proposed last night, apparently, and they decided our wedding venue would be perfect for celebrating. The silence on the other end stretches so long I think we might have been disconnected. When Daniel finally speaks, his voice is carefully controlled in that way he uses in the operating room when things have gone wrong but panic would be counterproductive. I'm coming over right now. Don't do anything until I get there. But I'm already scrolling through my contacts, past the usual names, past family and friends, until I reach a number I saved 6 months ago and never thought I'd actually use. Lawrence Blackwell, my father's former business partner and current rival, the man who spent 20 years helping build the Hartley real estate empire before my father forced him out in a hostile takeover that became legendary in Chicago business circles. Lawrence had sent me a congratulations card when my engagement was announced in the Tribune Society pages, and he'd included his personal cell number with a handwritten note. If you ever need anything, Nicole, and I mean anything at all, please don't hesitate to call. Your grandmother Eleanor was one of the finest people I ever knew, and I see a lot of her strength in you. At the time, I'd thought it was a kind gesture from someone who remembered my grandmother fondly. Now, staring at his number, I understand it might have been something more. An offer of alliance from someone who knew exactly what my family was capable of, someone who had been discarded when he was no longer useful to my father's ambitions. My finger hovers over the call button for only a moment before I press it. The phone rings twice before a familiar gravelly voice answers. Nicole Hartley. I wondered if I'd hear from you today. Lawrence sounds unsurprised, almost as if he'd been expecting this call, and something about his tone tells me he already knows what's happened. I assume Patricia's made her move. I don't ask how he knows. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Lawrence Blackwell didn't build a competing empire by being uninformed. My mother gave my wedding venue to my sister 3 hours before my ceremony. For an engagement party that apparently just became necessary overnight. And you're calling me instead of your father because you've finally realized that asking Thomas Hartley to choose you over Vanessa is a battle you'll never win, Lawrence says bluntly, without cruelty, just stating a fact we both understand. Smart girl. Eleanor always said you had her head for strategy underneath all that accommodation. What do you need? The question is direct, businesslike, and in this moment it's exactly what I need. Not sympathy, not outrage on my behalf, but practical assistance from someone who understands the game being played. I need a venue that can accommodate 200 guests for a ceremony and reception, available in 3 hours, with adequate parking, catering facilities, and preferably some outdoor space. I need it to be somewhere impressive enough that our guests won't feel like they're attending a hastily rearranged disaster. And I need it to send a very clear message to my family that they don't control me anymore. Lawrence chuckles, a sound that holds both amusement and something darker. You're not just looking for a replacement venue. You're looking to make a statement. Good. I have exactly what you need, and trust me, the statement will be heard loud and clear. He pauses, and I can hear him moving, the sound of footsteps and a door closing. The Blackwell Tower penthouse. 42nd floor, 3,000 square feet of event space, wraparound terrace with Lake Michigan and skyline views, full catering kitchen, and a setup crew I can have there in 90 minutes. It's where I host the events your father wishes he could book. More importantly, it's the property he tried to acquire in the takeover and failed to get. Having your wedding there will make every society page in Chicago, and everyone will know exactly what it means. My heart is pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. Lawrence, I can't possibly afford whatever you charge for that space on 3 hours' notice, and I won't start my marriage in debt to you. Another chuckle, warmer this time. Eleanor's granddaughter, definitely. No charge, Nicole. Consider it a wedding gift from someone who respected your grandmother more than anyone else in your family ever did. Besides, the look on your father's face when he realizes what you've done will be payment enough. I have security cameras in the lobby. I'll save the footage. Before I can second-guess myself, before I can fall back into the pattern of avoiding conflict and smoothing things over, I accept. Thank you, Lawrence. Truly. I'll have my wedding planner contact your events coordinator immediately. We exchange the necessary information quickly, professionally, and when I hang up, I realize I'm smiling for the first time since I woke up. I'm still smiling when Daniel bursts through my bedroom door 15 minutes later, slightly out of breath from running up the stairs, his hair disheveled and his tie crooked. Tell me everything, he demands, closing the door behind him and crossing to where I'm sitting on the bed. And then tell me how we're going to fix this, because I'm about 3 minutes away from driving to your parents' house and having a conversation that will definitely make things worse. I pull him down to sit beside me and take his hand, noting the way his fingers automatically intertwine with mine, the familiar comfort of his presence steadying me. I already fixed it. We're getting married at the Blackwell Tower penthouse. 3,000 square feet, 42nd floor, views of the entire city and the lake. Lawrence Blackwell is providing it as a wedding gift. Daniel's eyes widen as he processes this information and understands all its implications. Lawrence Blackwell. Your father's nemesis. The man he spent 2 years trying to destroy after the takeover. You're having your wedding at his signature property. He starts to laugh, a sound of pure delight mixed with disbelief. Nicole Hartley, the woman who spent 34 years avoiding family conflict, just declared war on her entire family 3 hours before her wedding. Not war, I correct him, though I'm laughing too, giddy with the recklessness of what I've just done. I'm just refusing to be collateral damage in their games anymore. They gave away our venue. I found another one. Everything else proceeds exactly as planned. Daniel cups my face in his hands, his expression shifting from amusement to something more serious. You know this changes everything with your family. After this, there's no going back to how things were. Good, I say, meaning it with every fiber of my being. I don't want to go back. I'm tired of being the daughter who makes things easy by making herself small. I'm tired of watching Vanessa take things that matter to me while I'm expected to smile and understand. I'm tired of parents who think my accomplishments are somehow less valuable than her charm. I want to go forward into a marriage where I don't have to apologize for taking up space or wanting things or expecting to be treated with basic respect. Daniel kisses me then, soft and brief and full of promise. Then let's get married at the Blackwell Tower and start our lives together the way we mean to continue. As partners who have each other's backs, no matter what anyone else thinks about it. He pulls out his phone and starts texting rapidly. I'm updating my family now. My mother is going to love this. She never understood why your parents treated you the way they did. She's been waiting for you to stand up to them for years. The next 2 hours are organized chaos of the most satisfying kind. My wedding planner, Simone, a formidable woman in her 50s who has coordinated events for Chicago's elite for decades, nearly drops her phone when I explain the situation. Your mother did what? On your wedding day? That woman has absolutely no class, money can't buy that apparently. She recovers quickly, all business. I've worked with Lawrence Blackwell's team before. They're excellent. Send me the contact information. I'll coordinate everything. The vendors were already set up to be mobile for any weather contingencies, so moving locations won't be as complicated as you'd think. This is actually going to be spectacular, Nicole. The Blackwell Tower is 10 times more impressive than the Rosewood Estate. My bridesmaids, college friends who have known me long enough to understand my family dynamics, respond to my group text with a mixture of outrage and fierce support. Finally, texts Jessica, my maid of honor and roommate from Northwestern. I've been waiting for you to tell your family to shove it for 15 years. The Blackwell Tower is legendary. This wedding just went from beautiful to iconic. My makeup artist and hairstylist, already at my parents' house setting up, pack their equipment and relocate without complaint. The photographer, when informed of the change, actually sounds excited. The light from that height, with the lake and skyline? Nicole, these are going to be the best wedding photos in my portfolio. This is a massive upgrade. The only calls I don't make are to my parents or my sister. They created this situation with a text message. They can discover the consequences the same way. I do, however, call the Rosewood Estate directly and speak with Caroline Morrison, the events manager I've worked with for 18 months. Caroline, this is Nicole Hartley. I need to confirm that my parents actually canceled my wedding and transferred the booking to my sister. There's a long, uncomfortable pause. Miss Hartley, I'm so sorry. Your mother called yesterday evening and explained there had been a family emergency that required canceling your event. She said you'd approved the cancellation and that your sister would be using the date instead for a smaller celebration. She was very convincing. The contracts were in your parents' names since they made the deposits, so legally they had the authority to make changes. My hands clench around the phone. There was no family emergency, Caroline, and I definitely didn't approve anything. My mother gave away my wedding venue without telling me and informed me via text message this morning. But I understand you were following proper protocol with the contract holders. I'm not angry with you or the estate. Caroline's sharp intake of breath tells me she understands exactly what happened. Miss Hartley, if there's anything I can do, any way I can help, please let me know. What your family did is unconscionable. Actually, there is something, I say, an idea forming. I'd like you to document everything about my sister's event today. Photos, if possible, of the setup, the guest count, everything. And I'd like a detailed accounting of all the deposits and payments made, broken down by who paid what and when. Caroline doesn't ask why. You'll have it by tomorrow morning. And Nicole? I hope your wedding, wherever it ends up being, is absolutely beautiful. You deserve that. By 9 o'clock, the new venue is confirmed, vendors are redirected, and 200 guests have received updated location information via email and text. The messages are carefully worded, professional, giving no hint of family drama. Dear friends and family, due to circumstances beyond our control, our wedding location has been changed to the Blackwell Tower penthouse. We apologize for any inconvenience and look forward to celebrating with you. New address and parking information attached. Several guests respond immediately with variations of "what happened" and "are you okay?" but I ignore those messages for now. There will be time for explanations later. What I don't ignore is the flood of incoming calls from my parents' number, my father's cell, my mother's cell, and Vanessa's number. Each call goes to voicemail, and I don't listen to the messages. Instead, I focus on getting ready, allowing my hairstylist to create the elegant updo we'd planned, letting my makeup artist enhance my features with the natural, glowing look we designed. When I finally step into my wedding dress, a custom Vera Wang gown with delicate lace appliques and a cathedral train, I look in the mirror and barely recognize myself. Not because I look so different, but because the woman staring back at me has something in her eyes I've never quite seen before. Certainty. Strength. The absolute conviction that she deserves everything good that's about to happen. Jessica appears in the doorway, stunning in her burgundy bridesmaid dress, and stops short. Oh, Nick. You look incredible. And more importantly, you look happy. Actually happy, not that fake accommodating smile you usually wear around your family. She crosses the room and takes my hands. I know today didn't start the way you planned, but I'm so proud of you for not letting them ruin it. For finally choosing yourself. I should have done it years ago, I admit, squeezing her hands. But I guess I needed something big enough, painful enough, to break the pattern. They took my wedding venue, Jess. The one place that connected me to my grandmother, the one thing I'd made crystal clear mattered to me more than anything else about this wedding. And they gave it to Vanessa for a party without a second thought. If I let that go, if I just accepted it and found some courthouse to get married in, what would they take next? Jessica's eyes are fierce with loyalty. They're not taking anything else. Not ever again. Now come on, your future husband is waiting at the most spectacular venue in Chicago, and we have a wedding to get to. Your real family, the people who actually love and respect you, are all going to be there. Your parents and Vanessa can have their party at the Rosewood Estate. You're going to have a marriage that starts with you standing in your power. As we prepare to leave my childhood home for the last time as Nicole Hartley, soon to become Nicole Cooper, my phone buzzes one more time. Not my parents, not Vanessa, but a number I don't recognize. Against my better judgment, I check the message. Nicole, this is Aunt Vivian. Your mother's sister. I haven't spoken to your mother in 12 years, but a mutual friend told me what happened today. I just want you to know that I'm proud of you, and your grandmother Eleanor would be too. Some families only understand strength, never kindness. It's time they learned you have both. Congratulations on your wedding. I stare at the message, tears threatening my carefully applied makeup. My mother has a sister I've met maybe twice in my entire life, someone who disappeared from family gatherings when I was young and was never discussed. The fact that she knows what happened, that she's reaching out now, tells me that whatever rift exists between her and my mother probably has roots similar to mine with Vanessa. Generational patterns of favoritism and dismissal that run deeper than I'd realized. But unlike whatever happened with my mother and her sister, I'm not disappearing. I'm not cutting ties and walking away quietly. I'm getting married at the Blackwell Tower, making a statement that will resonate through Chicago's society circles for years, and I'm doing it with my head held high and my heart full of certainty that I deserve better than what my family has given me. The war Jessica joked about isn't one I started, but it's one I'm finally ready to fight. Not with screaming or dramatic confrontations, but with boundaries and consequences and the simple, revolutionary act of refusing to make myself smaller so others can feel bigger. As my bridesmaid loads my dress carefully into the car and we begin the drive into the city, I take one last look at my parents' Lake Forest mansion in the rearview mirror. The house where I grew up, where I learned to be quiet and accommodating, where I watched my sister receive praise and attention for the same things I was expected to handle without recognition. I'm leaving it behind in every sense, and I'm not sad about it. I'm free. The Blackwell Tower rises from Chicago's downtown core like a statement in glass and steel, 70 stories of architectural ambition that dominates the skyline in ways my father's buildings never quite managed. As our car pulls up to the entrance, I see Lawrence Blackwell himself waiting on the sidewalk, distinguished in a charcoal suit, his silver hair perfectly styled despite the morning humidity. He's flanked by what appears to be an entire events team, all wearing matching black attire and moving with military precision. Jessica lets out a low whistle from the seat beside me as we take in the organized chaos of staff unloading floral arrangements, setting up velvet ropes, and directing arriving vendors through a service entrance. Lawrence opens my car door himself before the driver can, offering his hand to help me navigate the curb in my voluminous dress. "Nicole, you look absolutely radiant. Eleanor would have been so proud to see you today, and not just because you're a beautiful bride." His eyes crinkle with warmth, but there's something else there too, a glimmer of satisfaction that tells me he's enjoying this situation on multiple levels. "Your father called me 45 minutes ago demanding to know what I thought I was doing facilitating your wedding. I told him I was correcting a grave injustice and suggested he take it up with his wife who created the situation in the first place. He hung up on me, which I considered a victory." I can't help but smile at the image, though part of me feels a pang of something like grief for the father-daughter relationship that apparently never really existed the way I thought it did. "Thank you for this, Lawrence. Truly. I know the history between you and my father is complicated, and I don't want to be used as a pawn in whatever ongoing rivalry exists between you." He shakes his head firmly, guiding me toward the private elevator that will take us directly to the penthouse level. "You're not a pawn, Nicole. You're a young woman who deserved better than what your family gave you, and I happen to have the resources to help. The fact that it also highlights your father's failures as a parent and his wife's cruelty is simply a bonus I'm mature enough to enjoy." The elevator ride to the 42nd floor is smooth and swift, nothing like the jerky service elevators I'm used to in older buildings. Jessica and my other bridesmaids, Sarah and Monica, press their faces to the glass walls as we ascend, watching the city spread out beneath us in a spectacular panorama. "This is insane," Monica breathes, her reflection in the glass showing pure wonder. "Nicole, I've been to the Rosewood Estate. It's lovely in a traditional way, but this is legendary. Your wedding photos are going to be in magazines." When the elevator doors open onto the penthouse level, I actually gasp. The space has been transformed in the 2 hours since I made the call, and transformed is the only word adequate to describe it. The entire western wall is floor-to-ceiling windows offering an unobstructed view of Lake Michigan, the water sparkling in the late morning sun. The wraparound terrace has been set up with rows of white chairs facing an altar area decorated with the exact floral arrangements I'd chosen for the Rosewood Estate, white roses and peonies with touches of burgundy dahlias, except here they're arranged against a backdrop of sky and water instead of manicured gardens. Inside, round tables are draped in ivory linens, each centerpiece a masterpiece of flowers and candles, and the catering setup visible through open kitchen doors shows staff preparing what appears to be exactly the menu Daniel and I had selected. Simone, my wedding planner, appears from somewhere in the organized chaos, tablet in hand, looking more energized than I've seen her in months. "Nicole, thank God you're here. Everything is on schedule, which is frankly a miracle, but Lawrence's team is phenomenal. The photographer arrived 20 minutes ago and is already setting up shots on the terrace. Your flowers are perfect, catering is ahead of schedule, and the musicians are doing a sound check in the north corner. We have exactly 90 minutes before your guests start arriving, which gives us plenty of time for photos and any last-minute adjustments you need. She pauses, her expression softening from efficient coordinator to something more personal. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never seen a bride handle a crisis like this with such grace. Most women would be having a complete breakdown right now. Instead, you're glowing, and this venue is 10 times better than what you lost. Your family did you a favor, even if they didn't mean to. I hug her impulsively, careful not to wrinkle either of our outfits. I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you for rolling with the insanity and making it work. The next hour passes in a blur of activity and emotion. Daniel arrives with his groomsmen, and when he sees me standing on the terrace with the lake and sky behind me, his face does something that makes the photographer actually gasp and start shooting rapid-fire frames. That's the look, she murmurs, more to herself than anyone else. That's the cover of every wedding magazine in the country right there. Daniel crosses to me in 3 long strides, ignoring Simone's protests about not seeing each other before the ceremony, and takes both my hands in his. Nicole Cooper is going to be the luckiest name in Chicago, he says quietly, just for me. Thank you for not letting them take this from us. Thank you for being brave enough to choose differently. Our photographer, a talented woman named Rebecca Chen who's known for her editorial-style wedding work, directs us through a series of pre-ceremony shots that take full advantage of the spectacular setting. Daniel and I on the terrace with the city behind us, our hands clasped between us. Me alone with my bridesmaids, all of us laughing genuinely at something Jessica says about how my mother is probably losing her mind right now. Daniel with his groomsmen, relaxed and happy in a way I've never seen grooms look in those stiff, formal portraits. This is different, Rebecca keeps saying, her tone almost reverent. This feels real. Like you two actually want to be here, not like you're performing for tradition. As we finish the pre-ceremony photos, guests begin arriving, and I watch from inside the penthouse as they emerge from the elevators, their faces registering shock and awe in equal measure. I recognize Daniel's extended family, medical colleagues, my own friends from college and my consulting firm, neighbors from my condo building, even a few distant Hartley relatives who I suspect came out of curiosity more than affection. What I don't see, even as the ceremony start time approaches, are my parents or my sister. Part of me expected them to show up anyway, to make a scene or demand explanations or try to reassert some kind of control over the situation. Their absence is somehow more telling than their presence would have been. Jessica appears at my side as I watch guests mingling on the terrace, accepting champagne from circulating waiters and taking in the views. Your Aunt Vivian is here, she says quietly. The one who texted you this morning. She asked if you'd be willing to see her before the ceremony. I turn to find a woman in her early 60s standing near the elevator, elegant in a sage green dress that complements her silver-streaked auburn hair. The resemblance to my mother is striking, the same bone structure and bearing, but where my mother's face has been frozen by cosmetic procedures into a mask of perpetual youth, this woman's face shows character, laugh lines around her eyes and mouth that speak of a life fully lived. I cross to her before I can second-guess the decision, and she smiles with genuine warmth. Nicole. You look so much like your grandmother, it's almost painful to see. Eleanor had that same quiet strength, that same way of holding herself with dignity even when people tried to diminish her. She glances around the penthouse, taking in the elegant setup and spectacular views. This is quite a statement. Lawrence Blackwell's crown jewel. Your mother must be absolutely beside herself. You know about what happened this morning? I ask, though Vivian's earlier text already confirmed she did. She nods, her expression turning sad. Patricia and I haven't spoken in over a decade, but we still have mutual friends, and Chicago society loves nothing more than dramatic family gossip. When word got out that she'd given your wedding venue to Vanessa, several people made sure I knew. I suspect they wanted to see if I'd comment on the irony, given our own history. She pauses, seeming to choose her words carefully. Your mother and I were once close, before she met your father. But Patricia has always needed to be the center of attention, the most important person in any room. When our parents paid for my graduate school at Columbia instead of giving her a bigger wedding budget, she never forgave them or me. She spent the next 20 years making sure I knew I wasn't welcome in her new, elevated life. The parallel to my relationship with Vanessa is unmistakable, and Vivian sees my recognition. Families pass down their dysfunctions like heirlooms, don't they? I left Chicago to escape it, built a life in New York where I didn't have to constantly perform or compete. But you're doing something different. You're not running away. You're setting boundaries and demanding respect while staying visible. That takes a different kind of courage. She reaches out and squeezes my hand. Eleanor would be so proud of you, Nicole. She always worried about what would happen to you in that family. I'm glad to see you're strong enough to protect yourself. Before I can respond, Simone appears with her tablet and her no-nonsense expression. Nicole, it's time. Guests are seated, the musicians are ready, and your groom looks like he might pass out from anticipation if we make him wait any longer. Vivian steps back with a gentle smile. Go get married, dear. And don't worry about your mother or Vanessa. Their absence today says everything about them and nothing about you. As the string quartet begins the processional music, I take my position at the head of the aisle formed between the rows of white chairs on the terrace. I'd originally planned to have my father walk me down the aisle, a tradition I'd never questioned despite the complicated nature of our relationship. But this morning, when everything changed, I'd made another decision that felt both terrifying and absolutely right. I walk alone, my cathedral train flowing behind me, held carefully by my youngest bridesmaid, while 200 guests rise to their feet and turn to watch. The symbolism isn't lost on anyone. I'm not being given away, passed from one man to another like property. I'm choosing this, claiming this moment for myself, arriving at my own marriage as my own person. Daniel's face when he sees me coming toward him, backlit by the brilliant late morning sun with Lake Michigan stretching endless behind me, is everything I could have hoped for. His eyes are wet with unshed tears, and his smile is so wide and genuine that several guests actually laugh with shared joy. The ceremony itself is brief and meaningful, officiated by one of Daniel's closest friends from medical school, a man who has known us both as individuals and as a couple and who speaks about partnership and mutual respect with the kind of authenticity that makes people actually listen instead of zoning out during wedding vows. When Daniel and I exchange the vows we wrote ourselves, there's not a dry eye on the terrace, including my own. Nicole, Daniel says, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, you are the strongest person I know, not because you never break, but because you know how to rebuild yourself better than before. You deserve to be cherished, respected, and celebrated every single day, and I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt that. My own vows feel almost prophetic given the morning's events. Daniel, you saw me when I didn't even see myself. You made me believe I deserved to take up space, to want things, to expect the same respect I give to others. You're my partner in the truest sense, and I promise to always choose us, to always prioritize our marriage, even when other loyalties try to pull me in different directions. The officiant pronounces us married, and as Daniel kisses me with the entire city spread out behind us, I hear cheers and applause that feel earned rather than obligatory. This isn't a performance. This is real, and everyone watching knows it. The reception flows seamlessly from ceremony, guests moving from the terrace back into the penthouse's main space where cocktails and hors d'oeuvres are being passed by impeccably trained waiters. The energy is different from what I'd imagined at the Rosewood Estate, more urban and sophisticated, less garden party and more cosmopolitan celebration. People keep approaching Daniel and me, offering congratulations but also commenting on the venue with barely concealed curiosity. This is spectacular, says Dr. Richard Patel, one of Daniel's surgical mentors. I've tried to book this space for the hospital's donor gala for 3 years, and Lawrence Blackwell always says it's not available. How on earth did you secure it? I smile and exchange a glance with Daniel. We're very fortunate to have generous friends, is all I say, but Dr. Patel clearly understands there's a story there. The truth is already making its way through the crowd, small groups of guests whispering about the last-minute venue change, about the Hartley family drama that precipitated it, about the delicious irony of Thomas Hartley's daughter getting married in his rival's signature property. Chicago society runs on gossip and status, and what I've done today is provided enough of both to fuel conversations for months. What I don't expect is the arrival, halfway through cocktail hour, of my father. He emerges from the elevator alone, looking diminished somehow in his expensive suit, his usually confident bearing replaced by something that looks almost like shame. Guests near the elevator fall silent as he scans the room, his eyes finally landing on me standing with Daniel near the windows. Lawrence Blackwell materializes seemingly out of nowhere, positioning himself between my father and me with the casual authority of someone who owns the building and everything in it. Thomas. I don't recall seeing your name on the guest list. My father's jaw tightens, but he keeps his voice low and controlled. I need to speak with my daughter. This is a family matter, Lawrence. It doesn't concern you. Lawrence's smile is pleasant but doesn't reach his eyes. Actually, as the host of this event and the owner of this property, who gets to speak to the bride very much does concern me. Nicole, would you like to speak with your father, or should I have security escort him back to the lobby? Every eye in the room is on us now, the cocktail chatter dying away to expectant silence. I could say no. I could have him removed and continue my reception without acknowledging him at all. But there's something in his face, a crack in the usual Hartley armor, that makes me curious enough to agree. 5 minutes, I say, my voice steady. On the terrace. Witnesses present. I gesture to Daniel and Jessica, who immediately flank me as we move through the French doors back onto the terrace where we were married less than an hour ago. My father follows, and Lawrence takes up a position just inside the doors, close enough to intervene if needed but far enough to provide a semblance of privacy. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the terrace, and the view is somehow even more spectacular than it was during the ceremony, the lake turning golden in the changing light. Nicole, I need you to understand, this wasn't my idea, my father begins, and I hold up my hand to stop him. Don't stand there and pretend you're an innocent bystander in your own family. You knew how much the Rosewood Estate meant to me. You were there when Daniel and I chose it, when I explained about grandmother Eleanor taking me to those gardens as a child. And you stood by while Mom gave it to Vanessa without a word of warning, without a phone call, with nothing but a text message on the morning of my wedding. Thomas Hartley flinches as if I've struck him. Your mother said you'd understand. That you always understood. That you'd be fine with the country club instead. The words hang in the air, an admission of such profound parental failure that even he seems to hear how pathetic they sound. You believe that, I say, not quite a question. You actually believe that I just absorb this betrayal, this cruelty, and smile and accommodate because that's what I've always done. Did it ever occur to you to ask yourself why I always did that? Why I spent 34 years making myself smaller so Vanessa could feel bigger? My father opens his mouth, closes it, seems to struggle with words for the first time in my memory. Thomas Hartley has built an empire on his ability to negotiate, persuade, and dominate conversations. Seeing him speechless is almost surreal. I thought you were just easygoing, he finally says. That you didn't need as much attention or validation because you were naturally more self-sufficient. Vanessa has always been more fragile, needed more support. Fragile? The word comes out sharper than I intend. Vanessa isn't fragile, Dad. She's enabled. There's a difference. She's 28 years old and still living off your money because you've never required her to be self-sufficient. She gets a new car when she gets a minor promotion because you celebrate her minimal efforts like major achievements. And I get flowers in my office when I make partner at one of Chicago's most prestigious consulting firms because my actual accomplishments are treated as expected rather than exceptional. Daniel's hand finds mine, squeezes gently, a reminder that I'm not alone in this confrontation. My father's face cycles through several emotions, defensiveness, denial, and finally something that might be recognition. I didn't see it that way. Your mother always said Vanessa needed more attention, that you were fine, that you didn't mind. He runs a hand through his silver hair, a gesture of frustration I've seen 1,000 times when business deals aren't going his way. But you're right. I should have questioned that instead of taking the easy path. I should have protected you instead of protecting the family peace. Why are you here, Dad? I ask, suddenly exhausted by this conversation and wanting to return to my wedding celebration. Did you come to apologize? To explain? To try to convince me to forgive Mom and Vanessa and pretend this didn't happen? He looks past me at the spectacular view, at the city he spent his life building his empire in, and I see something in his face I've never quite seen before. Regret, maybe, or the beginning of real understanding. I came because when I got to the Rosewood Estate this morning and saw Vanessa's engagement party set up, I realized what your mother had actually done. The venue was decorated with your flowers, Nicole. The arrangements you'd chosen, the colors you'd selected. They just put different names on the signage and called it Vanessa's event. The revelation hits me like a physical blow. My mother hadn't just given Vanessa my venue. She'd given her my entire wedding setup, everything I'd planned and paid for, and simply rebranded it. Jessica makes a sound of pure outrage beside me, and Daniel's grip on my hand tightens protectively. My father continues, his voice heavy with something that might be shame. I confronted your mother. Asked her how she could do this to you. She said Vanessa needed this more, that her engagement to Marcus was sudden and they wanted to make a statement, that you'd have other opportunities. When I pointed out this was your wedding day, she said you'd already found another venue, so obviously you were fine. I'm not fine, I say quietly, and the admission feels revolutionary. For 34 years, I've claimed to be fine when I wasn't, smoothed over hurts, minimized disappointments. I'm hurt and angry and betrayed, not just by what happened this morning, but by years of being treated as less important than my sister. And I'm done pretending otherwise. I'm done making myself small and convenient. I'm done being the daughter who understands and accommodates while Vanessa takes and is never asked to give anything back. My father nods slowly, accepting this with more grace than I expected. I don't blame you. And I'm not asking you to forgive your mother or have a relationship with Vanessa if you don't want to. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what we did to you, what I allowed to happen. And I'm sorry, Nicole. Truly sorry. He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out an envelope, offering it to me. This isn't an attempt to buy your forgiveness. It's what I should have given you months ago when we made our financial contribution to your wedding. The full accounting of what your mother and I paid, and what Vanessa is now using for her party. I take the envelope, noting the way my father's hand shakes slightly. Inside is a detailed breakdown showing that my parents contributed $50,000 to my wedding, money that paid for the Rosewood Estate deposit and booking guarantee, the photography package, and partial catering costs. Below that is another section showing that Vanessa's engagement party is utilizing all of those same services and vendors, effectively stealing my wedding day while leaving me without the resources to replace what was taken. They're using my photographer, I say, my voice hollow as I scan the list. My florist, my caterer, everything I spent 18 months planning. She's literally having my wedding, just with different names on the signs. Yes, my father confirms. And that's not all. Your mother took the $50,000 from our joint account, money that was meant for both of you equally. She gave it all to your wedding initially, but now it's all going to Vanessa's party. Which means she essentially stole from you twice, once by taking your venue and setup, and again by using money that should have been split between you. He pulls out another envelope, this one thicker. This is a check for $50,000, Nicole. What should have always been yours regardless of what Vanessa got. Take it, invest it, use it for your honeymoon or your future home. I should have made sure you were treated equally all along. I look at the check, at my father's signature scrawled across the bottom, and I feel something shift in my chest. This isn't about the money, though the gesture is significant. It's about acknowledgement, about my father finally seeing the disparity and trying, however inadequately, to address it. Thank you, I say, and I mean it, even though money can't repair years of emotional neglect and favoritism. But Dad, this can't be the end of the changes. If you're serious about seeing things differently, about doing better, that has to extend beyond today. It means setting boundaries with Mom, requiring Vanessa to be accountable for her actions, actually listening when I tell you something matters to me. Thomas Hartley straightens his shoulders, and for a moment I see the businessman who built an empire, the negotiator who never accepts defeat. I understand. And I'm willing to do that, though it won't be easy with your mother. She's already threatening to leave me if I don't back her completely in this situation. But watching you walk down that aisle alone, seeing you take control of your own wedding and your own life, made me realize I've been complicit in teaching you that you had to do everything alone. That's not the kind of father I want to be, even if I've been exactly that kind of father for your whole life. Jessica, who has been quietly observing this whole exchange, speaks up for the first time. Mr. Hartley, with respect, Nicole doesn't need you to change who you've been. She needs you to be honest about who you are. If you're willing to set boundaries and treat your daughters equally, wonderful. But if you're going to go home tonight and let Mrs. Hartley convince you that Nicole is being dramatic and Vanessa deserves special treatment, then don't make promises you won't keep. Nicole deserves better than empty words. My father looks at Jessica with something like respect. You're absolutely right. And I understand I've lost the right to ask Nicole for trust. But I'm here, aren't I? At the venue of my business rival, publicly acknowledging that my wife wronged my daughter. That's not nothing in Chicago society, Nicole. Everyone who matters will know that I chose you over maintaining the family image. He's right, and I know it. My father showing up here, speaking with me on Lawrence Blackwell's terrace, handing me a check in front of witnesses, is a statement that will resonate through our social circles. It doesn't fix everything, doesn't undo years of damage, but it's a start. Okay, I say finally. I accept your apology, and I appreciate you coming here. But I need you to understand that my relationship with Mom and Vanessa is permanently changed. I'm not going to Sunday brunches anymore. I'm not pretending everything is fine. I'm not exposing my future children to the same dynamics that damaged me. If you want to be part of my life going forward, it's going to be on my terms, with clear boundaries and honest communication. My father nods, and I see acceptance in his eyes along with sadness. That's fair. More than fair, given everything. He glances back toward the penthouse where my reception is in full swing. I should go. This is your day, and I've already taken up too much of it. But Nicole, for what it's worth, you look absolutely beautiful, and this venue is spectacular. Lawrence always did have better taste in properties than I did. As my father moves toward the elevator, I call after him. Dad? Are you going back to the Rosewood Estate? To Vanessa's party? He pauses, turns back with something like resolution on his face. No. I think I'm going to check into a hotel for a few days, give your mother and myself some space to figure out if our marriage can survive this. Turns out watching your daughter get married at your rival's property because your wife sabotaged her wedding day is clarifying in ways I didn't expect. With that, he's gone, and I'm left standing on the terrace with Daniel and Jessica, holding two envelopes that represent both money and the first real acknowledgement I've received from my father in my entire life. Are you okay? Daniel asks, wrapping his arm around my waist and pulling me against his side. I lean into him, letting his solid presence ground me. I think so. That was unexpected, but also maybe necessary. At least now I know where he stands, or where he's trying to stand. Jessica checks her phone and grins suddenly. Okay, you need to see this. It's already hitting social media. She shows me her Instagram feed where several guests have posted photos from the wedding, and the comments are already flying. Beautiful ceremony at the Blackwell Tower. Stunning bride. Best wedding I've ever attended. And then the more telling ones from people who clearly know the backstory. Thomas Hartley's daughter getting married at Lawrence Blackwell's property, the drama. Heard the mother gave the original venue to the younger sister on the wedding day. Who does that? Nicole Hartley is a queen for pulling this together. You're going viral, Jessica says with obvious delight. And not in a scandal way. In a boss way. Every woman who's ever had a terrible family is living vicariously through you right now. I laugh despite myself, the absurdity of the situation finally hitting me. My wedding day started with a devastating text message and is ending with me becoming a social media inspiration for boundary setting. Come on, Daniel says, guiding me back toward the reception. We have a party to get back to, and I believe we're supposed to cut a cake at some point. Also, my mother has been dying to meet Lawrence Blackwell for years, and I promised I'd introduce her. The rest of the reception unfolds like a dream, the kind where everything is heightened and surreal but undeniably real. Our first dance is to a jazz standard that Daniel and I chose together, and dancing with him 42 stories above Chicago with the sunset painting the lake in shades of gold and pink feels like the most romantic moment of my life. The toasts are heartfelt and genuine, Jessica making everyone laugh and cry with stories about our college friendship and how she always knew I'd find someone who saw how special I was. Daniel's brother talks about how his younger sibling became a better man after meeting me, how I challenged him to be more than just his career and accomplishments. The food is exceptional, prepared by the same catering team that was supposed to be at the Rosewood Estate but who adapted flawlessly to the new location and seemed almost energized by the challenge. As I watch our guests enjoying themselves, laughing and dancing and celebrating without any knowledge of the pain that started this day, I realize something profound. My mother and Vanessa tried to take my wedding from me, tried to diminish and dismiss me one more time. But instead of destroying this day, they gave me something better. They forced me to stop accommodating, to stand up for myself, to claim what I deserved instead of accepting whatever scraps I was offered. And in doing so, they lost me forever, while I gained freedom. The weeks following my wedding bring changes that ripple through my family like aftershocks from an earthquake. My mother calls 17 times in the first 3 days, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails that progress from indignant justifications to tearful pleading to cold fury when I don't respond. Vanessa sends a single text that reads, "You've always been selfish and this proves it. Hope you're happy ruining the family." I delete it without responding, feeling nothing but relief that the pretense of sisterhood is finally over. Daniel and I return from our honeymoon in Italy to find that Chicago society has thoroughly dissected and discussed our wedding. 3 different society magazines request interviews, which I decline politely but firmly. The narrative has already been established without my input: the plucky bride who refused to let family sabotage ruin her special day, the dramatic venue change to her father's rival's property, the quiet statement about boundaries and self-respect. I don't need to add commentary to what's already become legend. What surprises me most is the outreach from other women, friends and acquaintances and even strangers who somehow get my email address. They share their own stories of family favoritism, of being the responsible daughter who was taken for granted, of finally setting boundaries after years of accommodation. One woman writes that watching my wedding drama unfold gave her the courage to tell her mother she wouldn't be hosting Thanksgiving anymore if her sister continued to be exempted from contributing. Another says she finally confronted her parents about funding her brother's lifestyle while she paid her own student loans. My wedding has become more than a personal victory. It's become permission for other women to stop making themselves small. My father follows through on his promises in ways I didn't entirely expect. He moves into a corporate apartment downtown and begins individual therapy, sending me brief emails every few weeks updating me on his progress toward understanding his role in the family dysfunction. He and my mother are in marriage counseling, though he's honest that he doesn't know if the relationship can survive her refusal to acknowledge what she did was wrong. In one email he writes, "Your mother insists Vanessa deserved the venue more because her engagement was new and exciting while you'd already been engaged for over a year. She genuinely doesn't understand why that logic is hurtful to you." I'm starting to realize I married someone I don't actually know very well. Vanessa's engagement to Marcus falls apart within 2 months, which I learned through Aunt Vivian rather than any direct family communication. Apparently Marcus had proposed impulsively after too much champagne, and when he sobered up and learned about the wedding venue situation, he began questioning Vanessa's character and values. The elaborate engagement party at the Rosewood Estate, celebrated with my stolen flowers and my planned menu, becomes the high point of a relationship that quickly deteriorates into arguments about money, expectations, and the kind of family he was potentially marrying into. When Marcus breaks things off, my mother blames me for poisoning the well with my dramatic wedding venue change, as if my refusal to be victimized somehow caused Vanessa's relationship to fail. 6 months after my wedding, Daniel and I host Thanksgiving dinner at our new home, a restored brownstone we purchased in Lincoln Park. The guest list is carefully curated: Daniel's family, Aunt Vivian and her partner whom I've gotten to know through regular dinners, Jessica and several other close friends, and my father, who arrives alone with an expensive wine and an uncertain expression. My mother and Vanessa are not invited, a boundary that hurt to establish but felt necessary for my healing. During dinner, my father asks if he can say something to the group, and I nod permission while Daniel squeezes my hand under the table. I want to thank Nicole and Daniel for including me today, my father begins, his voice thick with emotion. 6 months ago, I stood on a terrace 42 stories above this city and watched my daughter walk down the aisle alone because I hadn't been the kind of father who earned the right to walk beside her. I've spent these months trying to understand how I failed so completely, how I let favoritism and conflict avoidance damage my relationship with someone as remarkable as Nicole. He looks directly at me, his eyes wet. I'm grateful for this second chance, even though I know it's more than I deserve. And I'm trying every day to be worthy of it. The table is silent for a moment before Vivian raises her glass. To new family traditions built on honesty instead of performance, on respect instead of hierarchy, on chosen love instead of obligatory tolerance. We all drink to that, and I feel something release in my chest that I didn't know I was still holding. My father will never be the parent I needed as a child, but perhaps he can be someone different going forward, someone honest about his limitations and genuinely trying to do better. As the evening winds down and guests begin leaving, Lawrence Blackwell arrives unexpectedly with a gift, a framed photograph from my wedding day that I've never seen before. It's an aerial shot taken from a drone, showing Daniel and me on the Blackwell Tower terrace during our first dance, the entire city spread out beneath us in a glittering panorama. I had my security team capture this, Lawrence explains. Thought you might like a reminder of the day you chose yourself. I hug him, this unlikely ally who gave me more than just a venue but a stage on which to reclaim my dignity. That night, as Daniel and I clean up the remnants of dinner, my phone buzzes with an email from Caroline Morrison, the events manager at the Rosewood Estate. Attached is the documentation I requested months ago, detailed accounting of my sister's engagement party including photos of the setup that show my floral arrangements, my color scheme, my vision executed for someone else's celebration. Also included is a breakdown of all deposits and payments, showing clearly that my parents' money funded everything while Vanessa contributed nothing. Thought you might want this for your records, Caroline's message reads. Sometimes it helps to have proof that you weren't imagining the injustice. I look at the documentation for a long moment, then delete the email without saving the attachments. I don't need proof anymore. I know what happened, my father knows, Chicago society knows. And most importantly, I've already moved past it. Holding on to evidence of my family's betrayal would mean staying tethered to their dysfunction, and I'm finally free. Daniel finds me standing at our kitchen window, looking out at our neighborhood with its tree-lined streets and historic homes. What are you thinking about? He asks, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I'm thinking that my mother tried to take my wedding day and ended up giving me something better, I say, leaning back against him. She forced me to stop waiting for my family to see my worth and start recognizing it myself. She thought she was punishing me by giving my venue to Vanessa, but she actually set me free. Daniel kisses the top of my head, and we stand there together in the home we've built, the life we've created, the future we're shaping on our own terms. The following spring, I receive an invitation to Vivian's gallery opening in New York, an exhibition of her photography that explores themes of family, identity, and the courage required to choose authenticity over approval. One photograph in particular stops me cold, a portrait of me at my wedding, taken during the ceremony as I walk down the aisle alone. My face is radiant with certainty, backlit by sunlight, my dress flowing behind me. The title card reads, Breaking Patterns, Nicole, 2024. Below it, Vivian has written, some women inherit their family's dysfunction. Others choose to end it. I buy the photograph and hang it in our home office, a reminder of the day everything changed, the day I stopped making myself small to make others comfortable, the day I chose my own happiness over family peace. My mother and Vanessa are living their lives somewhere in Lake Forest, probably still convinced they did nothing wrong, still operating under the same patterns of favoritism and entitlement. And I'm here, building a marriage based on mutual respect, planning a future where any children we have will never wonder if they're less loved than their siblings, creating the family I deserved all along. The wedding venue my mother gave away became the foundation of my freedom. Sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised as betrayals, forcing us to finally become who we were always meant to be. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.